Cyrus and RetroBro, cranking out nostalgia flow. Games of your news today, partial kicks, no delay. Pixels blast, legends rise. 8-bit world pixelize. Controllers we command. Virtual worlds conquest grand. Cyan Bro, metal saints, gaming news without restraints. Retro games, new tech search on this pod, legends merge. Old school tales, arcades fly, console wars keep it live. Joystick buttons, old school rain, next gen glory every stage. Retro quest, fury bright, speed runs battles every night. Cyrus RetroBro stands tall, gaming legends they call. CRT screens and LED, flicker flash reverie, microphone to shield their sword, podcast singers gaming lives. Flashing screens and LED, flicker, flash, reverie, microphone to shield their sword, podcast singers gaming lives.
What is up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Cyrus and Bro, the Buddy Cop Show. Which I do have to make a disclaimer. Neither myself or Cyrus are cops. So this was a title stemmed from a longtime friend of both of our channels, Born Distracted. I figured, you know what? He's been waiting long enough. We got to give him what he wants. But we've also, I feel like this has been a long time coming, man. You and I have known each other for a long time. I've always enjoyed talking to you about video games, current topics. We talk a lot offline. So I figured, hey, let's do something maybe once a month and we can discuss topics, news, retro gaming, whatever we want, and put it up. So Cyrus, thank you and welcome.
Well, I'm very much appreciative, and it's joining the force is something I've always wanted to do. Now I'm officially a police officer, and didn't realize this was how that happened. But now that I know, we should have done this a long time ago.
By the way, I wanted AI to make some cop images. So that's what you're looking at. And I tried to like upload pictures of both of us and it was not coming out right. Maybe I'll put some of those in for people to see as for the upload, but it was pretty hilarious. So this is what we have. But yeah, how's your weekend going, man? Are you doing anything interesting?
Depending on when people listen to this, they'll either be aware of this or not, but I've moved all my streaming to Rumble. So I'm just doing videos on YouTube now. So that's what I've been preparing, is this big change that I'm making. So
what kind of stemmed that? Because I know you and I have talked about how YouTube has changed. Like, I mean, I've been on YouTube since I think the end of 2015, I want to say. So it's, no, 2016. No, 2015, actually. December 2015, I started YouTube. So almost 9 years. And you and I have talked about how it's changed, but was part of that change kind of the reason why you decided you're only going to stream on Rumble? Because I know for a bit you were kind of doing both. You were co-streaming on YouTube and Rumble.
I think this is something that I've gone back and forth with for a while now. Several months, maybe a year. I've been trying to figure out what I was going to do with Rumble and what I wasn't. And, I guess eventually you just have to make a decision about what you think is the right thing. And it seems to me like streaming is better on Rumble and videos are better on YouTube. and it seems like there's a lot of reasons, man. Community and the technical side of things. There's a lot of, the dual streaming thing was not really working that well for me. And so I was just trying to find out, like, was there something I could do that would be both like more convenient and easier and better for me personally, but also work out for, what I'm trying to do and what I'm interested in doing as a content creator. So yeah, it was just like a combination of a lot of stuff. I think that discussions that you and I had, and then some discussions I had with Luke also, it just kind of was like the last straw. Like I finally was like, okay, time to make a decision. And so that's what I did. And we'll see how it goes.
I can certainly speak to that because I know when I first started streaming, it was probably the end of 2016. I think the first stream I ever did was a Super Castlevania stream on the Super Nintendo on an emulator. It was some like jank way I set it up. It was funny. I was using a standalone emulator, a terrible laptop that had no business streaming. And I remember often for that, and then following up to a few years, and I was a nobody on YouTube. I had less than 1,000 subscribers. I mean, I was consistently getting a lot of viewership on those streams, and there was new people almost every time I streamed coming into the chat that I have never seen before, and they were new subscribers. And that was really nice. And I feel like now I'm like almost 7,000, I'm at 6,500 subscribers. And if I stream, it's not the same thing. And YouTube has really kind of, I don't want to say devolved into what it's become, but it's certainly changed. And I don't know if that's due to the algorithms or maybe just people have no interest in watching retro game streams. But, I'm certainly curious to see how that works for you. I mean, because I've considered doing the Rumble streaming. I really have. I'm so ingrained in the YouTube though. I would have to see like a significant change for that to happen. But my videos will always, unless I see like a big change from Rumble as far as how they handle long form content, like the stuff I have for like my mini documentaries and those types of videos, until they can handle that sort of thing, I'll only ever be uploading those on YouTube because they do really well on YouTube. I mean, they consistently get views, and I actually uploaded a couple of those videos that have over 4,000 views on the Rumble just to see what it's like, and they're like less than 100 views. There's no interaction, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to put those on there. So I'm curious to see how it works for you, man.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic, but I mean, I just needed to do a change. I needed to try something different. So yeah, we'll see.
Change is good, man. Like I've definitely, I think we've all evolved to a degree on YouTube over the years. I mean, I've covered everything from, I remember like back when I started doing pickup videos. Everyone was doing pickup videos. And then it was topical type videos. Cause then, topic videos, my 10 best PS1 games hadn't been done a gazillion times. So it was nice. So you got interaction on stuff like that. And now it's kind of all been done. So that's why I focus really on the in-depth stuff, I guess you would say. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see how that works for you. I really am. And I'm going to be there on Rumble. I think I actually get the notification from Rumble when you stream. So that'll be nice. Just do me a favor, try and not stream at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because I was like,
no
damn
promises.
it, I missed another one.
No promises, sir. No promises. I will stream when I stream, and it might be 3 o'clock in the morning, or it might be 3 in the afternoon. It will be when it is.
Well, regardless of when you do it, I will at least watch it on the replay because I've always enjoyed your retro streams.
Appreciate it.
So yeah, I had a pretty interesting weekend. I had to drive to Micro Center today. For those that don't know, I had an issue. First of all, I'm convinced at this point the 3DO adult games killed my processor on my old computer. I'm not even going to emulate. Like, dude, I'm afraid to emulate 3DO games on my new computer because I feel like it's some sort of like bad omen now. I don't want to do it. I'm afraid to do it.
That not something weird was going on that night. Now that I'm remembering, Like you were having some kind of weird stuff, and we were like, "Oh, this 3DO emulator, I don't know." And then after that, your computer just took a dump,
It
and that was
died,
the end of
man.
that.
3DO
Yeah.
porn killed my computer. I'm gonna say it right now. I was joking because Evil was streaming and I put it in his chat, and then I was talking about it on a stream. Evil's like, "Dude, I thought you were joking." I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm convinced that's what happened." So I luckily a guy I work with actually had a spare processor. I had an i7 in this one, but he had an i5 of the same generation. He's like, "It'll fit in your socket. You could at least try it out and see if it is your processor." So Wednesday, I swapped it out, and sure enough, man, it fired right up. I ran Elden Ring on it. I ran some tests. It was perfect. There was nothing wrong with it. So by that point, though, I had already bought a new PC because I need my PC. Like I do like side hustle stuff on my PC. I have to have it. So that night, actually, it was like a week later because I had to travel for work. When I came back, it was when my computer was fried. So I just went on Newegg and I bought a brand new computer with a 14th, I think a 14th gen i7, DDR5 RAM. Things like stupid fast, man. So I mean, the good news is I don't have to upgrade for about 25 years when it comes to my PC. But yeah, I got the I bought the i5 from the guy I work with, and I sold the computer. So I had to drive down the Micro Center today, which is about an hour and 20 minutes. And I've never been to a Micro Center up until this point, and it's a good thing I didn't go in there with a lot of expendable income because I would have spent all of it, man. I mean, they have so much stuff in there. It was like heaven.
There's
Also,
really-
I felt like a nerd before I went in there, and then I went in there and I'm like less of a nerd. It's like my dad used to tell me like, "Hey, if you ever feel fat, go to a buffet because there's always going to be about 10 people there fatter than you, regardless of how big you are." And that's kind of how Micro Center is with being a nerd. Like you're not the nerdiest guy in there.
You know, there's really nothing else like Micro Center anymore. You know, like that's where they go because there's no place else like that anymore. Like everything's physical stores and brick and mortars, they're all shut down. And I think we were talking about that earlier about Fry's and missing all that. So,
Yeah, Fry's was great. We had a Fry's in Chandler, Arizona when I lived out there, and then that shut down. I mean, I have a Best Buy by me, and I like Best Buy, but they're so overpriced, man. They have it's ridiculous. I don't know how they're still in business. The amount they charge people for things, it's crazy.
That's not the same store that it used to be either. Best Buy is it's not like it used to be. Like used to go into Best Buy and they had a lot of tech and a lot of reasonably priced tech. And now it's all this, like you said, kind of like boutique stuff. And like, it's just, yeah, it's weird. It's not the same place.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So that's my weekend so far. As far as what we've been playing, have you been playing any new games, or you kind of just looks like I see you've been playing a lot of Atari stuff lately? Or
Yeah,
that generation of games.
I go through these phases, you know. I've been ever since the Atari thing happened. It's been on my mind, I guess, and I just been playing a lot of Atari stuff. But
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit too.
yeah, I just I don't buy a lot of new games, you know. Once in a blue moon I'll buy something, but it has to be something that really catches me because a lot of the stuff that I buy on my PS5 is like retro type of games. You know, like I don't buy a lot of new I'm not I mean, it's funny because like I have a PS5, right? But I'm not buying the
You have
new,
a pretty powerful
you know,
PC as well. I mean,
I do.
your PC is
And-
probably it is more powerful than your PS5 actually.
Yeah.
So that is funny.
I'm-
It's like when I got my 4070, the first thing I did was emulate Xbox on it. Like,
Dude, I am perfectly fine with admitting that I'm just an old man and I like old stuff. Like I'm at that point in my life where my comfort zone is about 20 years ago plus,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just where I'm at. Like this modern stuff, yeah, I'll dabble around. I'll play a newer game here and there. Like I bought that newer Sonic game. It's like 3D graphics but 2D gameplay. I can't remember what it's called.
oh
Newer
yeah.
Sonic.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, is it Heroes? I think it's called Sonic Heroes or something like that. I haven't played it yet. Luke really likes it.
Well, I don't remember what it's called, but and the funny thing is, the only reason I bought it, it was on sale, and it's a newer game, but it's still like an older game, you know,
Yeah.
like just the way it plays. I'm just not like you play all these newer games, and you're like, I watch you play this stuff all the time, and I just have no desire to do that. Like, oh, okay, I will play Fallout, like Fallout 4, but I'm just wandering around doing nothing, basically, you know. I'm just I'm not a modern gamer. I do a little bit, but I really don't. I don't know why I have all this stuff. Like, I got this really good computer. I don't have any modern PC games on it, you know? Um, like all the games that I have on Steam are at least 3 or 4, 5 years old, you know? Like, I just don't have, you know, I'm not a modern gamer. And I'm cool with that though. I'm cool with that because it's good to have this hardware, especially for the stuff that we do, you know, for rendering video and doing all these things that need a lot of power. And, you know, the NVIDIA card helps for everything you do on OBS actually. But as far as gameplay, I mean, I'm not a PC gamer really, and I'm not a modern gamer. So every year I get worse. There's more things I'm not every year. So I don't know.
Yeah, and one of those is not younger. I hear you.
That's been a while. Yeah.
I feel like I do a little bit of both. I'll go in between. Like I got into that last Faith game for a bit because Black Metal Gamer had recommended that to me, and I all I did was play that for a week, and that's kind of like a Metroidvania, Castlevania style game. I really enjoyed that. I streamed a little bit of it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was cool looking. That was really cool. That's like, we always wanted to get like a Castlevania that was like a old school Castlevania, but with like really detailed modern artwork and stuff. That's kind of like what that was.
This was good. This is probably one of my favorite indie games. I think since I played, I don't know if you can consider Kenna an indie game, but that was really good. I think this was like the best indie game I played since then. And I played that 2 years ago, actually. So it was a lot of good. I'm still playing Elden Ring. You know, the DLC comes out in, I think, 2.5 weeks. So once that comes out, I'm just going to power through that. And then, I might go back to retro for a little bit. I really just like to mix it up. But yeah.
Well, like you said, we've been doing YouTube so long that we've kind of been through several like obsessive phases over like Sega Saturn or Sega Genesis or whatever, you know. So it like we're kind of at a point. I'm at least maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but like I feel like, you know, we'll get back to stuff, you know, but it takes a while to make that, to go back around. Like you gotta get back all the way through stuff to come back to something that you have been doing, like that we were obsessive about for a long time. So yeah, you'll get back to the Saturn. You'll get back to.
Oh, I still play my Saturn. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Still play all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not like we're not interested in the stuff that we love. It's just, you know, we don't do as many streams or videos about it or whatever because we're doing other stuff. But we'll get back to things.
You know what it is, man? I think we just have so many options. It's really kind of hard to pick a direction a lot of the times. And that's why I actually like modern gaming, because I feel like I can get into something newer a lot better than I can. Like, because I go through and I play like my Saturn stuff, and I'll kick around some games here and there, but I never like really sit down and like play through a Saturn game, or maybe like a Genesis. I'll do it sometimes like with the 16-bit stuff, because you can beat a lot of those games in a couple of hours. But that's why like I really just like to get obsessed with like a good modern game. And unfortunately, like, when we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's not as many of those good modern games and new games as there like used to be, like with the 360 and PS3 days. They're very few and far between, it seems, a lot anymore.
Yeah, these times they are changing.
But that takes me into the next thing, is really just what to expect from this show. So I think we're going to probably do this. I mean, we talked about maybe once a month. I could never do this once a week. Even once every 2 weeks would be a lot. So we want to do these once a month, and we're just going to chit chat, talk about topics. Tonight we're going to be talking about some Microsoft woes. Looks like Atari bought the Intellivision brand. There's a new Evercade system. and we're going to discuss a little bit of the Sony State of Play and some. I haven't watched the trailer for Silent Hill yet, so we're going to watch that and experience that together. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that, so
Yeah.
I'll put my opinion on that. But that takes me to the first topic. Microsoft closes Redfall developer Arcane Austin, Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks, and more in devastating cuts at Bethesda, dude. So this actually happened a couple weeks ago, and you and I kind of talked about this.
Yeah, we were going to talk about it on
offline.
yeah.
And we were
we
going to
got
talk about it.
distracted.
Yeah. I mean, it was this was what, May 7th this got announced. This is almost a month ago at this point. But
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, man, I like wasn't super surprised when I heard this at all. I mean, this has kind of been Microsoft's MO over the last few years. Is I said it like 4 or 5 years ago when I said Microsoft I called it Game Pass bait. They needed Game Pass subscribers. They weren't making new games, so how are they going to get people to subscribe to Game Pass if they don't have the library of games? Well, it's easy for them because it's Microsoft and the amount of money they have to just go out and buy these studios. And now they're closing them down. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was like one of their best games. I mean, they even said it was like a phenomenal game. I think it sold really well. It was well received. So
Yeah.
it's just nuts, man.
But what I find fascinating, but before I kind of dive in, I just want to say this. I noticed that at the time when this got announced, that there was a huge amount of like outrage and uproar, and everybody was making videos about like the sky is falling and Microsoft is done, and this is the end, and they're getting out of gaming and all this kind of stuff. And it hasn't even been a month, and I see a lot of these I gotta call them, I guess, pro Xbox channels. I don't know any other way to describe them. They've totally forgotten about this, and they're just like back to talking about like, oh yeah, there's going to be a new Xbox that comes out, and here's what the supposed rumors are about it and stuff. And I'm like, did you forget what just happened to your company? Because Microsoft, I mean, the damage that was done from this cannot be understated, because when you buy up half the damn industry and then you just close it down, even though they have success, it makes everybody else that works for your company decide, oh, there's no way to know that what we're doing, even if successful, will actually allow us to keep our jobs. There's no job security. There's no understanding of what the expectation even is. They've ruined the trust between them and their employees, and employees of all the companies that Microsoft bought. And, you know, John, I don't know if I'm going to sound crazy because, you know, I have all these ideas about Game Pass, and sometimes I can be a little bit hyperbolic. I know that. But what this does is it calls into question the entire strategy of what Microsoft is doing, the entire idea of the value of what Game Pass is supposed to be. Because Game Pass is a rental service. It's not a service where people buy games. It's a service where you get to play games and you pay a fee for that, but you don't own anything. And I hear people still say that Game Pass is the greatest deal in gaming or the best value in gaming. And first of all, from a consumer side, you don't own anything that you get from Game Pass, so there's no value other than like you get to play these games. And actually, the value that you think you have by getting to play the games costs the companies that make the games, because they don't sell any of those. And Microsoft then decides, oh, your game didn't sell, so then you don't get a sequel to the game that you played for free or for the fee for your Game Pass that you thought you were supporting by having Game Pass. This is not a value for the consumer in the long run, and it's definitely not a value for the developer in in any run, because they're going to get they're going to get like fired for no reason. They're going to get fired for doing their jobs. And then the games that you really want aren't even going to get made anyway, because they're going to shut down these studios. And a lot of these subsidies, these companies that Microsoft has bought, these developers that they bought, they're being forced to put out games that they don't even want to make. They're being forced to produce a game that's not even the type of game that they make, that they usually make. And that's what happened with the Hi-Fi Rush studio, the Arcane Austin. You know, Hi-Fi Rush turned out to be pretty good. And they come back to Microsoft and they're like, hey, this game did good. We'd like to make another one, blah, 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 blah. And they just said no, and they shut them down, you know?
Yeah.
And and you ask yourself, where's the logic in that? Well, there is a logic in that. And it's the most disgusting, dangerous crap that you can imagine, because what it actually proves to you is that the entire structure of how Game Pass works is that it's an unsustainable Ponzi scheme. Okay. And this is where I'm going to sound a little crazy. Sorry. But the idea Microsoft has had is to just keep buying these studios and loading their pre-existing games up onto Game Pass, so that Game Pass appears to have an enormous amount of value to it. It appears to have a lot to offer. Okay. And in order to pay for all of these acquisitions that they're throwing onto Game Pass, they need more and more subscribers, right? Well, they've hit a cap on that, and the subscribers are not growing for Game Pass. They're actually going down. And Microsoft has done everything they can to maximize the growth of Game Pass. But the problem with that is, in order to have Game Pass, you have to either have a PC and want Game Pass, which is asking a lot from PC gamers who have an enormous amount of options, right? Or you have to have an Xbox. And if nobody buys Xboxes, nobody new gets Game Pass. It's a simple equation, right? And this equation, I guess, was too difficult. Well, it wasn't too difficult. They knew this years ago, but they were letting this scenario play itself out until they had to deal with it. They were kicking a can down the road until they got to a point where there was no more growth, and there was no way to get more growth because they had not produced anything. They can't even make a freaking Halo game. How do you not do that? You know, the new Hellblade came out, and universally everybody goes, oh, this game looks fantastic, but it's like one of the worst games ever made. Like, it plays like absolute crap, and it's short as hell, and you almost do nothing while you're playing it. And everybody's like, how long were they working on this game? How many years?
It's a 5-hour game, from what I read.
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
5-hour
but
game.
Yeah, you can beat it in 5 hours. They worked on it for 6 years, I think.
That's less than an hour of gameplay per year.
Yeah.
Right? How's that even possible? You know?
But it's
obviously. Well, that sells Game Pass subscriptions, right? Beautiful graphics.
Though? Does Hellblade sell Game Pass subscriptions? And I think even Microsoft knows it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sell their games. I saw somewhere, and I'm probably saying it wrong, it was like 52,000 copies sold of the actual game in the first week or something like that, or might have been the first day. I don't know. It was a very low number. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, first of all, why would you buy it if you have an Xbox, if you have a PC? I mean, I played Lies of P last year. At the time, I didn't really want to spend $60 on it, so I subscribed to Game Pass for like 2 months. I spent $20 to play that one game and then just canceled it. Now, the thing that sucks is when the DLC comes out, I'm either going to have to buy it or resubscribe to Game Pass if it's still on there to get if the DLC is even on there, to get my save game back, because I don't want to start the game over.
Well, you just brought up an interesting point. It's kind of what I was talking about also. if you're buying up studios and those studios are producing games that nobody's going to buy, like the only way you're making any money is off of Game Pass, like adding to Game Pass, right? And if you've reached a point where there's no way that's growing because you're not selling Xboxes, and the people that already have Xboxes either already have Game Pass or are not getting Game Pass. Game Pass is your only revenue stream. The game Hellblade 2 comes out, it sells almost nothing, right? Well, that had to have been the expectation. It's like the Hi-Fi Rush. The expectation had to have been it wasn't going to sell. So how can they then use that against them and say your game didn't sell? There was no way for it to sell. And now that they decided, oh, we're going to put Hi-Fi Rush on other things, before they can even get returns on that, and the developers can like be justified and vindicated for their game being a good game and worth buying, before that can even happen, they destroy the entire thing. They take down the entire studio. Why would they do that? Why would they sabotage their own people that way?
I always understood the concept of, I always liked the concept of Game Pass as a limited option. And I think Sony does it well, you know, because when the whole thing was like, oh, well, Game Pass is so great because you're getting, you know, all these first party games on day one for just a subscription, and that's how they're selling it. That kind of made me go, well, doesn't that devalue your games because no one's going to buy them? And that was always something that I had worried about, but I liked the concept that it was there, that I had a very vast library of backlog that I could go through for $10, $15 a month or whatever it is. I think it's $10 a month on PC, on just PC right now. I don't know what it is on Xbox, but even over the years, like, I've noticed the quality of the games that kind of started to fall off. And I mean, you know, they bought the Bethesda stuff and a lot of all the other stuff. I think the new Call of Duty is going to be on Game Pass, and people are still going to buy that because of the PC market and Sony market. So I think a game like that will still sell, because I'm not going to subscribe to Game Pass if I want to play Call of Duty. I probably won't even play the new Call of Duty. I haven't played a Call of Duty in like, I think 3 years. So that's one thing I think Sony does well, is they stick to their guns, and they're putting these first party titles out that they do have, and they're making you buy them. And I think that forces them to make better games. I mean, because you know, you mentioned it, Halo, was it Halo Infinite? I mean, that was the most underwhelming Halo I ever played. People want to give like 4 a hard time. And even as goofy as 5 was, I almost thought 5, and I know I might get some shit for this in the comments, but I even think 5 might have been slightly better than Infinite. I got to a point when I was playing Halo Infinite, and I'm like, this is just repeat, rinse and repeat, same thing over and over again. It didn't really, I mean, there was the same enemies, or there wasn't a lot of variations in the enemies. It was like, I felt like it was like 5 types of enemies throughout the entire game. And it just felt kind of boring. Like I remember getting to the point where I'm like, I just want to finish this so I can be done with it. And that's not a sign of a good game. Like when you play a good game, you're like almost kind of sad when you beat it. Like, damn, like what am I going to do now for like the next week or whatever? I got to find something else to play that's going to be just as good. You know, Starfield was a total, you know, a total mess.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Go ahead. I'll let you ask your question before I move on.
No, I just was going to add one thing about the Halo thing. Like, don't forget, like, when we first saw Halo Infinite, the graphics were so horrible. Like, they had to be convinced that they needed to improve it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they showed that off, and we're like, hey, here's the new Halo. And everybody's like, what the hell?
Look at
and they're
360
like,
game.
oh, yeah, they're like, oh, is there a problem? What? And they didn't know what they were doing from the beginning on that. And, you know, you said you felt like you had like lost interest by the end of the game. It seemed like they had lost interest even making the game, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean you could totally say that with the way the game progressed. It was like they got to a point and it's like, let's just finish this thing and just get it out there, because that was another one that was in development hell for a while and it got delayed several times. Microsoft, unfortunately, is not what they used to be. I remember I had a 360, and I mean, to this day, the 360 is one of my favorite consoles. They made me switch to Xbox. I mean, part of that was because the PS5 was so expensive at the time, and I'm sorry, what did I say? PS5?
It's a PS5.
Yeah, you know what I meant. Thank you for correcting me, though. Sometimes I don't catch my mistakes. And then like Gears of War, I mean, that was a new IP. The Halos on there were phenomenal. That was kind of like the beginning of real online gameplay. It was obviously on PS2, but it wasn't as fluid as it was on like the 360 at the time. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to get out of gaming. Everyone's, Microsoft is going to be out of gaming.
They own half the industry. They can't get out of gaming.
I don't know if they'll be out of console hardware though, because you made a good point with the whole Game Pass. Like if they want to sell Game Pass, they either have to talk PC players into playing it, which why would I have Steam. I mean, Steam, I don't even really mess with any of the other services like Games of Gold. I don't really like EA's, just their EA and Ubisoft's thing. Battle.net, I don't really like any of those platforms. They're just kind of like storefronts really for me. They're just not intuitive at all. But Steam is kind of where I'm at as a PC gamer, and they have everything I need. So why would I ever subscribe to Game Pass unless I really just don't want to pay a game that I really want to play?
Well, the rumor going around is they're trying to buy Steam. They're trying to buy Valve.
Yeah, that was I think that was an unsubstantiated claim. I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't know. I don't
even want to entertain that concept. It's so scary to me.
It is scary. It's terrifying. Can you imagine?
No, I couldn't.
I mean,
I don't know what I would do. I'd be so sad. But going back to my point, I can potentially see Microsoft saying maybe we make a deal with Sony, Nintendo, and whoever else to get Game Pass on these other platforms, so you don't need an Xbox or PS5. But even that in and of itself is kind of they'd be cannibalizing an entire section of Microsoft, of Xbox. Why would you make consoles at that point? So they have a decision to make: either stop making consoles or double down. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll be very interesting by the time this generation starts to come to a close. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think if Microsoft comes out and says we're going to do like a Xbox Pro or whatever, the Xbox Series Pro or whatever the hell, I think if they do something like that, then that's going to give us our answer. Then they are going to stay on hardware. I don't think they do that without. I don't think they do that and then go and give Game Pass to everybody else. I don't see that happening. So yeah,
I think there's a potential for some changes happening at the leadership for Xbox.
I think that's well due. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think depending on the success of their next move will determine what that leadership will look like. And my guess would be that's not going to go very well. And that's because the problem they have at Microsoft is if they make a new console, it's not like all the new consoles that they sell are going to get new Game Pass subscriptions, because most of those are going to get sold to people that are already subscribed to Game Pass because they already had an Xbox. So how much actual growth there is for them through Game Pass is the question. Like, what is even possible?
Well, that's another thing, because like if for example, I have an Xbox S, not a Series S, an S. And if I have Game Pass on there, there's games I can't play on there that are only Series S and Series X. So I don't have a chunk of the library. So I'm paying the same amount as somebody who has a Series X and gets all. It's strange. It doesn't make sense to me.
It is interesting, right? It doesn't make sense. None of it makes any sense. And I think that's what's becoming clear to the industry and to the higher ups at Microsoft outside of the Xbox people. because they've spent billions, billions of dollars on acquisitions of companies that they can't pay for. Because, I mean, people have always said that the upper echelons at Microsoft kind of looked at Xbox like, oh, we don't really even care about them because they don't factor into our bottom line because we make trillions of dollars, so it's not really that big a deal. But now it's different because Xbox, the people at Xbox have spent billions upon billions on these companies with the understanding that the reason they're investing that money into buying these companies is because those companies are going to produce games that are then going to cause Xbox to have growth and return on that money. And what we're seeing is that's not possible because of Game Pass.
Yeah.
So it's,
Well, I mean,
they have
they've been selling Game Pass to these investors as this was Xbox's golden ticket, and they're not just going to go back. They're just not going to go back into it because I think in a perfect world as a gamer, what we would like to see is Microsoft go all in on one console, much like Sony does. Like just do the X, just do the Series S. It's a very powerful console. It can do a lot. Go all in on that. Make your first party games that you do have exclusive and don't put them on Game Pass, and use Game Pass as a option for people that want to have access to a vast library of games from a year ago and beyond.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but they wanted to be, the problem is they wanted to be Netflix. And just automatically be what Netflix is today. Netflix, they didn't want to go through the growing pains of what Netflix was over 10 years of struggling with shitty titles, to where they're at now with, their own, series and movies and spending all this money. And Microsoft just thought they could throw money at people and do this, and it's backfiring on them. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see where it is, and even 3 years from now.
You're right, dude. It did backfire. I think Game Pass was a solution for today, not for tomorrow. I think they were like, what can we do to stop the bleeding? What can we do? Because it was so bad. If you remember back to the Xbox One, it was so bad. And they were like, what can we do? Well, here's a stopgap. Here's something we can plug the holes in the submarine, and we can go and we can convince ourselves. If we can't convince anyone else, we can convince ourselves that we'll just keep getting new studios and we'll just keep adding stuff to this. Like you said, it should have been a service for older games, for cheaper games, for, indie games, a service for people to have okay, let me say this. When I got a PlayStation Vita, they had PlayStation Plus, and it was before PlayStation Plus became what we now know PlayStation Plus to be. It was just a service that you paid, and it was cheap. I think it was, I don't remember how much it was, $30 or something like that. But they had what they called the instant game library. Okay. And Sony carried that forward as PlayStation Plus evolved. But like back then, it was literally like you pay a small fee and you get a bunch of games that you maybe, never even would have been able to really get or afford or whatever, but you got a bunch of games and like, okay, good. I got some games. And it encouraged you to then think, okay, I'm going to buy more games. I'm going to buy the newer games that come out, because these are some of the older games. These are some of the maybe not as good games, but it's affordable. It's an instant game library. And that's what Game Pass really should have been, an instant game library, just to get people games for their console so they would have software. Like you buy a new system. Oh, all these games, the new games are so expensive. What can we afford? So usually what people would do is they'd go buy used games. They'd go to GameStop and they get used games because they can afford those. So what Game Pass should have been was their answer to that. To say, oh, you don't need to go to GameStop. We'll take care of you on that end. And then if you want to buy the more expensive games, you have that option too. And that would have worked.
And you know what? at the beginning it was a lot of that too, because they had like, I mean, they did so much with backwards compatibility, and I thought that was fantastic, and all of that stuff being on Game Pass. And I feel like when it started, that's what it was, and then it evolved to what it is now, with them trying to essentially buy their way back in, and now we see them closing these studios down, and it's backfiring. So that's really all I have to say on that. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting few years to see how this unfolds, but yeah. So alrighty, so since we're on the topic of current gen and Microsoft, we talked a little bit about Sony. Did you get a chance to watch any of the Sony State of Play? They just had that over the weekend. Now that there's no E3 anymore, they're all kind of doing their own thing now. I didn't watch the Microsoft one. I didn't really care. I caught a few clips of the Sony one. I was excited about one announcement for me as a PC gamer and somebody who doesn't have a PS5. The new God of War is coming to PC September 17th, which is perfect because I'll probably just be wrapping up the Elden Ring DLC around that time. So I'm super excited about that. Sony's done a very good job with porting their games. I think it's Nexus, the publisher that they use, or to port them over to PC. All the PlayStation games I've played on PC have been some of the best games that I've actually even played on PC, and I'm excited for this one. They've done a great job on those.
And notice that Sony puts them out later. Like they have their PlayStation thing, and then a year or however long later, then they bring it out on PC. That's how you do that.
Well, and do you know why they do that? They do that because they want to have the best experience on the Sony platform first. They want to make sure that is all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. It's a good experience because they know that people paid for this $500 PS5. And these are first party exclusives. They want to make sure there's a good experience there. And then they take the team, they dissect it, and then they put it in a PC. It's done very well. I think they have a good system. I don't mind waiting because they do it so well. It doesn't bother me that I have to wait. And I hope they don't change that. There's been some talks that they're going to start doing day one stuff. I really hope that doesn't happen. I think it'll water down their titles a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
But anything that you saw,
Nintendo should do the same thing. That would be awesome.
Yeah. They make a lot, dude. I would buy all the Mario games on PC. I would 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, why would you not want to play?
They would be way too worried about pirates.
Yeah, that's why they're not. They won't.
That's why they won't do it.
You're right. You're 100% right. They already have enough problems with PC people doing stuff. I saw the State of Play, and I got to admit, I fast forwarded through a lot of it. The first, I don't know, 25-30% of this thing was some like Overwatch looking game. And I was like, why are you doing this? Like it just, maybe it's just me and I'm not the core demo anymore. I'm aging out of this whole thing, but I had zero interest in that game. I saw it and I was just like, this looks just like I've seen 50 games that look exactly like this. And I'm not interested in playing any of them, you know? So I don't know. I thought that was a huge misstep on Sony's part there. I was very disappointed in that. But then they started to show some other stuff that actually did look kind of cool. And I don't know if you have the names of some of these games that they showed. But yeah, you got one here that I know is another game that a lot of people have talked about and a lot of people have strong feelings about. The Silent Hill 2 remake. Silent Hill 2 is like one of those games that's like canonized as one of the, you know, the greatest games that people will go back to. Like Resident Evil 2 was like that. Silent Hill 2 is like that. There's like these games that people, they have this reverence for. And I think that's why people are so pissed off about this game. Did you ever play Silent Hill 2?
Dude, I tried to play the original Silent Hill when it came out on the original PlayStation. I could never get into it, man. It was just too slow for me. And I think a lot of the problem is because I had been playing stuff like Metal Gear Solid and Siphon Filter, and I was really into those types of games. And then I tried to play Silent Hill, and I'm like, this doesn't do it for me. So then I never really played much of them. But I'm trying to find that game that you had mentioned. There's quite a few games here that they announced, and I have to go through and look at a lot of these. I should have done it before I came on here, but life happens, and I didn't really get a chance. So I really just kind of wanted to talk about the hot topic, which is Silent Hill 2.
Well,
but I know what you're talking about as far as that Overwatch style game. I just can't think of the name of it. And it doesn't surprise me because these types of games are popular. They're cash cows with the DLC and seasons and, extra microtransactions. I mean, I think it's going to be a free game. So yeah, these types of games are just a source of income at this point. I don't get into them. I got into Apex a long back in like 2018 when it came out. Played that for a little bit, and then after a while I'm like, this is just the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
And I'd much rather spend and that might be an age thing for us, because that's how we grew up playing games. Like, you sit down, you get into a game, get into the story, and you play through it. So these types of games are not the Fortnites of the world. I can't do it. I have a few hours of fun here and there with some of them, and then I move on.
Well, we've changed a lot too. We've gotten older, and we used to play Call of Duty all the time, and we've kind of, aged out of that too. We're not playing a lot of the.
Well, part of that is too because it was COVID and there was nothing else to do. I remember, dude, I played so much Call of Duty during COVID. Call of Duty and drank beer. That was a year of my life wasted.
Also, I think Call of Duty was revolutionary. Like, when it was earlier, like the as it got older, it started to lose some of the luster and some of the appeal because it was there wasn't a whole lot of innovation once you got past like the Xbox 360 or going into the PS4 era. It starts to get kind of older, like kind of and then by the time we get to these new consoles, I'm just like, I've played Call of Duty for a long time, I don't know, going on 15 years maybe. And it's like maybe longer than that because I'm trying to remember, maybe 20 years at this point, depending on if you count the Call of Duty 2 and 3. But, any online game, competitive game, it's got to be really innovative. Like, I'm not like, I used to play Quake 3. I'm not playing Quake 3 anymore. I'm not playing Team Fortress Classic anymore. You move on. You do something for a while, then you move on, you do something else. Online competitive stuff is like that. It's not like retro gaming. Retro gaming is a different kind of experience, but online competitive stuff, it's got to catch your attention. It's got to be something, it's got to evolve. It's got to be interesting and unique, and it has to not if you start to feel like you're being taken advantage of, or the game is like a slot machine, or like everything's like trying to entice you to spend more money constantly, it really takes away, like, especially our generation, because we're not used to that. We're used to buying a game and everything's in the game. And if there's DLC, unlock stuff in the game. And if there is DLC, it's later, and it's a bonus extra thing that a new experience of some kind that you buy once and then you have it. And this is like, you want to nickel and dime you and loot you, and it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't find that appealing at all. I don't find, so I guess that's probably part of the reason that I'm not looking at these games with any kind of sense of interest. I'm just like, okay, all right.
There is a game. It's called Wo Long, and I don't think it's not a PS5 exclusive, but it is a single player style game. A lot of people are calling it a Souls-like game. I'll have to send you a video of it, but that one looks interesting. I think that comes out sometime.
I think I saw that.
So that's on my radar. It's like Chinese mythology. It looks really good. It looks good. Let's see how this looks. I haven't seen this yet. I was actually going to watch it before.
You haven't seen this?
I haven't seen it. And I wanted to save it for the show. So yeah, let's get into it. I've only heard of some. You know what? I'm just gonna play it. It's a minute 46, and then I'll react.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was just...
It's okay. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm kind of lost. I'm looking for Silent Hill.
I think you should stay away. This town, there's something wrong with it?
Is it dangerous?
Maybe.
I'll be careful.
I'm not lying.
I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not. I'm going either way.
No, you shouldn't be here.
Is this coming out on PS4 too?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't
Because the
know.
reason why I ask is because it looks like shit. Like just graphically, it doesn't look good.
This, yeah, we'll get in.
But okay, I'll keep going.
I'll be good, I promise. Tell him I'll be good, please. No, please.
All right. I'm not a Silent Hill player, so I can't really watch that and go, this looks bad, that looks bad. So I'll ask you, like, what's the consensus there? Because I like, aside from it really like not looking good, I mean, her voice, the main character's voice acting does not seem good to me, and I know there's been some controversy there. First of all, I don't care if a protagonist is ugly or pretty. I don't give a shit about that. I definitely see why. I mean, they did make her ugly, but I mean that wouldn't bother me even if I was a fan of the game. So what's like the big issue, I guess?
Okay, well, I can tell you what okay, let me put it to you like this. What I saw happen with this game was surprising to me because I watched this trailer and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a remake of Silent Hill 2. That's interesting. Doesn't look great. It looks okay. But I thought it was a crappy trailer. Like the trailer didn't really show anything. And what it did show was very obscure and like you couldn't really see a lot of stuff. Anyway, so I played the original Silent Hill 2 on PC back in the day, actually. I still have my discs for that game. 2 of them. I lost one of them. But anyway, I loved that game back in the day. It was creepy as hell and it was slow, like you said, but I like slow games a lot of times. So I wasn't going to be like too critical about this. What I saw happen was it seems like sometimes there's like a decision that gets made where YouTubers will be like, somebody will say something, the next person adds to that, the next person, it's like that phone game where people keep adding and adding and adding, and then it snowballs and the public opinion of something sort of takes over and people have collectively decide what they think. And I heard some crazy ideas about this game.
I heard
and
it
I don't
too.
and I don't know where these ideas come from because I look at this and I go, okay, her face is a little pudgy. So what? Okay, maybe I'm supposed to be upset about that, but I don't care. It's a video game character. I'm not, this is what different. Oh, she's not as pretty as she was in the original. Okay, whatever. Maybe that really matters to you for some reason. I guess it's a horror game. I don't know why that matters, but okay, fine. You want it. She's got to be hot. All right. But then I heard these other things, and I don't know if we even need to repeat this stuff because it's, as far as I can tell, completely based on nothing other than just like crazy ideas. Like people just trying to freak out and like be mad. So
I
that-
agree.
you know,
I agree with you on that. From what I've seen, I don't think any of it should be. It didn't seem substantiated to me. It just seemed more like exactly what you said. We're gonna have a. This is what we're gonna talk about on this particular thing as a whole, and this is what's gonna drive. And this goes back to what we were saying about YouTube earlier in the show, is like how YouTube has kind of devolved to this thing where it's like, hey, we're gonna, harp on this one topic really hard. I'll be 100% honest with you. As somebody who doesn't play Silent Hill, I watched this trailer. There are a couple instances where he's like in the tunnel with the gun, and it looked a little like his hair looks washed out. It looks fuzzy. I mean, graphically, it's not the best looking game. I mean, this is still an old game, so it's not going to be like, I mean, maybe some people expect it to be like the RE4 remake. I haven't played that, but supposedly that looks phenomenal. But aside from it just not looking that great, I mean, I don't see anything in this trailer that makes me go, oh, this is awful. This is terrible. I can't believe this is so bad. Honestly, like you said, I think they should maybe show a little bit more, because they really don't show me a whole lot. This trailer didn't give me any reason to even want to go play Silent Hill.
Yeah, it's a bad trailer. It's a bad trailer. And maybe the game's not bad, but the trailer's not good. And I don't know, why the decisions were made to show what they showed the way they show it. Because I have a feeling that the game probably has some stuff in it that looks pretty damn cool. Having played the original, I know there's some really cool stuff in the game. There's a reason people love Silent Hill 2. There's a reason. And they didn't capture that in this trailer. And I think maybe that's why people got so upset, because they felt differently about this trailer than what they expected to feel. Maybe it wasn't, because this BS that they're making up about this chick, I'm like, why are you even making that up? You're trying to find a reason to be mad. Just be mad because it doesn't make your game look good.
Yeah,
that's
just
good
be
enough
mad
reason.
because the trailer sucks.
Yeah, that's a good enough reason.
Yeah,
You don't have to also be mad because of a bunch of whatever. Yeah, okay. She doesn't look. She has thick eyebrows. Everybody's, oh my god, her eyebrows.
maybe
like,
she's
really?
Italian. You should see some of my cousins, man. They got some
I
thick
just
ass
don't-
eyebrows.
Look, man, I'm like the furthest person away from being like woke. I'm not one of those people, but I'm also not one of those people who's like trying to be like, every time a game comes out, I'm pissed. It's the worst thing ever, and it's part of an agenda. Like, can you shut up? Can we just like look at something and evaluate what's happening in front of us? I don't know. I find this like manufactured outrage that people have so irritating. And maybe that's because I'm an old crotchety man and I'm not part of that the current whatever, the community. But I'm just like, dude, the game looked like shit. Just say that. Like, it didn't look how you wanted it to look. Oh, and you're a fan of Silent Hill 2, so you have high expectations, so you want it to look good, and it didn't look good, and it didn't feel right. The trailer made it feel like lackluster. And now you're mad because you've loved that game for 20 years, and there's a new version, and it's not great. So when your friends ask you, hey, I thought you said you liked Silent Hill 2, that game looked like crap, you feel embarrassed. Why don't you just say that?
Yeah. I mean,
Because that's what...
people who like the people who like that series, they're diehards, man. They're kind of like, people who like Castlevania games and Resident Evil games. It's a pretty diehard fan base. So I'll be honest with you, I want to see more. I'm not going to go back and play the original just because I feel like that game is really dated, especially on a lot of some of those early PS1 games are hard to go back to. I mean, they redid the Tomb Raider stuff. I might go back and play those because I never finished them on PS1. They took out the tank controls. I mean, you still have the option for the tank controls, but if this game is actually any good, it might give me a reason to play the Silent Hill game. I'd much rather play a remaster these days with updated controls than the original. So I would like to see more.
Oh.
Maybe another trailer comes out. I mean, it comes out in October, so I don't know how much more we're going to see. Maybe they'll do a gameplay release here in the next couple months. That's probably what they'll do. You'll get like an hour gameplay thing that they upload to YouTube or whatever. I would like to see that. And then, of course, there'll be more drama. But, you know, if it looks good, I'll play it. I don't know if I'm
There
paying
will
60
be
bucks
more
for it,
drama.
but yeah.
If there's no guarantee of anything else, it will be that there is more drama. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's for me, man. I was really, my big thing with the Sony State of Play was I wanted them to announce the God of War game to PC. That's all I really cared about. You know,
Yeah.
if you guys are watching, if you're in the Premiere chat, let me know what you guys think. Any games that you looking forward to, and then of course if you're watching on the replay, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But I think overall, from what I did see and from what I heard, it seemed like it was pretty underwhelming. And a lot of these really kind of are now, because like I feel like big AAA gaming, these games take so long to make, man, because so much has to go into them. We don't get the abundance of titles that we had, you know, back like the 360 era and before, where maybe it took them a year or two to make a game. Now it's taking them a whole generation of consoles to make one single game. So that kind of sucks. But
Well, at least until AI takes over, and then
Yeah. well, that's a whole nother
Then-
bee's nest, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
then the game will be done in like a week, but it'll be horrifying. It'll be the
Yeah, there'll
worst
be
thing
like
I've ever
people. Have
seen.
you seen those AI pictures on
Yeah.
like online where people are like they try and put them off as like real pictures? Like I saw like someone posted a thing. It was like two kids and one with like an Israeli flag and a Pakistan flag, and they were holding hands. It looked like a real picture, but then if you zoom in, it's like the kid's got like 7 fingers on one hand, and like his coat's like in like his skin, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's AI. Everyone's just passing it around like, oh, this is a real picture. It's like, zoom in and look at the picture. That's what game's gonna be like. There's gonna be like characters with like fingers coming out of their ears and shit. Or my favorite AI picture, if you've seen it, it's like somebody asked AI to draw like a family scene in the 80s, and they drew like a bunch of people sitting around the TV, like with it looked like like a Nintendo system, and like the dad and like the kids are all smoking cigarettes. Did you see that one?
I haven't seen that. No, that's
I'll put it on the screen so everyone can see it when we upload it. But yeah, you'll be able to see it
Well-
on the replay. That one's funny.
We laugh, but this stuff is getting crazy. This stuff is
Yeah.
getting crazy.
It is, man. So yeah, any other thoughts on the state of play before we move on? It'll be fun to get into these next couple topics.
No, I mean, like I said, there was a couple of things, but I can't remember what they were that actually looked pretty good. But the first, at least 30% of that thing was just this god awful stuff that you know. But anyway, no, I don't really
Yeah.
have anything else to say about it.
They can be tough to watch. The next topic. There's a new Evercade system.
boy.
This is their how many systems do they have now? This might be like their 4th or 5th system. So I got an email I'm subscribed to their newsletter because I bought a Versus when it came out. I thought the Versus was a cool concept. I really wanted the concept of the Evercade Versus because they're taking a lot of these older arcade games, putting them on carts, and then you have a physical or a collection of these arcade games. And I really like that idea because I love game preservation. I think one of the best ways to preserve games is through emulation. And then we can do it, if you could take the emulation and then do it through hardware and have a physical, I really like that concept. The problem I had, and I'm not going to split any hairs here, but the emulation on the Evercade Versus sucks. It's not good. I did a video on it. I really wanted to like it, but I couldn't get past the poor emulation, and the emulation's really bad on the arcade titles. I mean, the stuff that was like the Pico stuff that was built for like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, like that stuff's okay. I mean, that's not relatively hard to emulate, but the arcade stuff there was a lot of audio inconsistencies. Like you start one game and it's really loud, and then you back out and do the next one and it's super quiet, so you have to turn your TV up. That's the emulator. I've dealt with some emulators that did that. So there's lag, there is input lag in a lot of these games. So I really wish they would spend as much time fixing the emulation as they do on all these consoles. But The Evercade Alpha, it's going to go for $229 American, and this is going to be the size of a bar top arcade. I've been trying to. Okay, here we go. I don't know what millimeter dimensions are via inches and feet, but you can do the calculations. It's 410 millimeters high, 24 millimeters across, but it looks like these are pretty small. A good indication of that. Oh, and it only has an 8-inch screen. That's the size of like a tablet. Like my kid's tablet is 8 inches. That's small.
It's about the size of the Switch OLED screen. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
So this is $229 for that. It's going to have some swappable, interchangeable lit marquees. They say these are sandwalk controls, but it's only one player. There's one controller.
It's not a full size stick anyway. Like, what does that
No.
mean? Sandwalk. It's not a full size stick.
The buttons, I think, are sandwalk.
It says full size, but I don't
Competition grade full size arcade controls.
know. Maybe it is, and I'm just judging the size of this thing.
They make it look a lot bigger than what it really is. So there's going to be 2 officially licensed arcade designs and 6 built-in Capcom games per device. So it looks like you're going to get Super Street Fighter 2. On one of them, there's going to be like a Street Fighter collection, a Mega Man collection on the other one with Final Fight, Knights of the Round, and I think I saw Strider on there. But yeah, it looks like one's kind of a Capcom collection. Yeah, Strider, Knights of the Round, Mega Man 2, Carrier Air Wing, Mega Man The Power Battle, and Final Fight. And then, of course, this thing's going to take all of your Evercade cartridges that you may have or that you buy for the future.
All of them? Or, I mean, 'cause I know
It doesn't say. I know there's some issues with the Versus with a few of them not working. I think it's only like 1 or 2 though.
yeah, the Namco cartridges.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll work.
I'm not an expert on Evercade though. I don't. Yeah, it's
yeah,
a
I mean, I'm
collector's-
certainly not either. And I look at this thing and I'm not sure who this is for, because I feel like
Well-
anybody into the arcade scene, they're probably not going to buy this unless they're just some sort of collector that likes to buy these like iArcades. I mean, this is way smaller than like an arcade 1-up would be. So
I
if
think
you already
there's
have an
two
arcade
groups.
1-up, why would you have that?
I think there's 2 groups of people that will buy this. There's the people that really do love the Evercade and the cartridges and the physicality of that, and owning copies of games that are physical copies, and they play the cartridges. They'll buy this because it's another way to play their cartridges. It's another that would be fun. If I was a collector who wasn't just buying them to put them on a shelf, but actually liked them, then this would be cool to buy because it's a whole new way to play. So that's one group of people. The other group of people that are going to buy this are the people that will never open the box. And so they don't care about how good the emulation is. You know, they don't give a crap. And Evercade knows that. My question is, how good a quality, because we know those other ones, the arcade 1-up cabinets they're not well made. We know that. What is this going to be like? Like, what is the actual quality going to be like on this? Because a bar top arcade is pretty cool. I'm not saying it's not.
This isn't even like, I mean, you remember, I think you saw the bar top arcade I built.
Yeah, dude,
you were here.
had an amazing
This is a fraction of that, like probably
Right.
a quarter of the size of that. And I mean, that was a 2-player cabinet that I built, and I think altogether that cost me less than $400 to build. That's with like the paint and shit because I had to paint it. This is really small. This is really small for $230.
Did your
I mean, this will fit
system
right
have-
here on the corner, but
Yeah. Did your bar top have 2 sticks, or was it just 1 stick?
2. There's 2 players.
So you had 2 sticks. There's no way you're playing 2 players on this. Like, even
Well, you
like,
can't.
what would you
There's
have to do?
Yeah, there's only one. There's only one option. They don't even give you a 2-player option. There's 1 joystick and 6 buttons.
So you can't hook up a controller to it?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
But I don't know.
But even if you can, it's so small, you're not going to be playing two people right up on this thing, not for an extended period of time anyway. Like, I mean, you might hook it up and like, oh, let me get my kid and have my kid come over and stand next to me for like 5 minutes. And that might be fun for 5 minutes, but you're not going to sit there and, oh, we're going to spend the afternoon on this. That's not going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it would for some people that are really into Evercade. Like, believe me, I understand, you know, we get really into stuff. And if there are people that are just hardcore fans of Evercade and they might just be really, really into this, but
do you
honestly,
think their audience, do you think though their audience is that big? Cause I don't see this going out really outside of that community. But do you think their audience is that big that they're going to be able to put these out and make a good amount of money? I just...
No, this is a niche product for fans of Evercade. This is like, this is for collectors and fans of Evercade. That's who this is for. You know? It's not for the general public. The general public doesn't buy it.
And I'm not saying, and we're not saying there's anything wrong with that. You know, there's certainly, everyone has their niche. I just try and look at these types of things from like somebody who's like, I'm not an Evercade collector. Like I said, I told you I like the concept of it, but when I couldn't get past the poor emulation on a lot of the arcade stuff. So after that, I was like, I'm kind of out on Evercade.
Yeah, because we're looking to have a really fun experience with the games more than anything. You know, these little things like this, I mean, if they're good, like if the quality is really good, then that's interesting. But still, I'm not buying this. I'm buying something more like what you have, the 2-player setup with the, you know, to where you can actually use it and have fun. Like this is, if this is like a novelty. If
this was 2 players and maybe 50 or 100%, say 100% bigger, if it was double the size, would that be 50% or 100% bigger if it was double the size?
Well, I mean, 100% bigger is twice the size. So yeah.
So yeah. So if it were twice the size, had 2 players, I could maybe consider something like this for the same price though. For the same price, I think $229 for how small this thing is. It being only 1 player, I would never buy this.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
but until it comes out and somebody really has a chance to put it through its paces, we don't know anything about it really. Like, you know, because that was the problem with those arcade 1-ups was like they fell apart. Like people would buy them and like the plastic would get messed up and the decals would start to come off and the controls wouldn't work. The speaker would go out, you know, they'd have all these issues. And they said like using them, they felt like they were going to break them. Just like if you leaned on them at all, they felt like they're going to fall apart.
In arcade 1-up's defense, I think they did fix a lot of their quality issues from the people that I've talked to that are really into that scene. It seems like they have fixed a lot of those issues since their initial launch. I mean, arcade 1-up's been out now for, I want to say 6 years.
Yeah, they've been around, and I played an arcade 1-up one time. I played a Pac-Man game at a Best Buy. I enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was fine, you know. It was way too expensive though. I wasn't going to buy it, but you know, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life.
there was one arcade 1-up that I was considering, and it was the Outrun cabinet. Because they make like one with a sit down, but I watched some reviews and they showed like an adult male sitting there and they look like just this big kid in this thing. Yeah. A couple years ago when I had a kidney stone, like I had to like take a bath, and I hadn't taken a bath in my house ever. And the only bath we have, like the full like bathtub, is in my kid's bathroom. And I'm sitting in this bathtub and I'm like way too big for this fucking tub. And then like I felt like that's how I would look playing that arcade 1-up Outrun machine, me sitting there like with this wheel. I mean, I'm 5'8", but I'm kind of like a wide dude. So like I would just look silly, and I couldn't imagine like my wife coming downstairs and I'm like sitting in this little thing, you know, and her just laughing her ass off at me.
Plus, what if you had to get up real fast and you broke it, just
Oh,
getting
God.
up from it?
I would 100% break it or get mad.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man.
yeah, this isn't for me. I mean, I hope it's something that the arcade one up, or I'm sorry, Evercade people can enjoy.
See,
But
there's your
it's
problem.
not for
Also,
me.
this is going to confuse some people because they're going to be like, "Wait, what is this? This doesn't look like an Evercade. This is look like." They're going to be confused by this product.
Yeah,
I think.
be interesting to see how many they sell. I don't know
I'm
when they
trying to
come
not
out.
be. I'm trying to not be negative. I understand why people would want it that actually are fans of Evercade, and I understand why people would want it that are just going to collect it and will never take it out of the box.
I mean, it's
But
a
it does
nice,
seem,
it's a nice looking machine. I mean, it looks. I mean, this is all 3D graphics and rendered
Yeah.
stuff, but I mean, it looks cool, but it's just not.
I'll tell you this. If
Not for
I
me.
owned a bunch of Evercade cartridges, I would definitely buy it if I
Yeah.
did. Because why not? You know, you got to do something with those cartridges, and that's a
Yeah.
cool option.
Well, I think,
So,
as I'm all for more hardware, as somebody who loves
Yeah.
retro games, it's cool to see new hardware, so I
Can you
definitely
go
don't want
back-
to crap all over this thing.
can you go back down to where it's showing the detail where the bottom part is, where the black plastic is? I saw
right
this.
there?
Oh, right there. Yeah. So it's got a headphone. It's got USB ports.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't pause this,
So
but it does look like
if
there's
it
a
has-
headphone jack. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I saw USB ports. So if it has USB ports,
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Player
see?
1, Player 2, it does have USB
There
ports.
you go. So
Okay.
that answers that.
So you can still
Okay.
plug 2 controllers in and bypass. That's pretty cool. Okay. That's
See,
good. At
maybe-
least they
maybe
give the
it's not
option
that
then for
bad.
2 players. They do
Yeah.
give the
Does it have
option for 2
video?
players.
Does it have video, like HDMI output also?
That I can't see.
Although that kind of defeats the purpose of having it,
Yeah, that would defeat the purpose.
but that's interesting. That's interesting. It does have support for 2 players, so that's good. Maybe are they going to sell like a separate arcade stick to go with it?
I think they do. I think you have essentially 2 different options for the arcade sticks from what I was reading. The Evercade Alpha is fully assembled. It's fully assembled bar top size. It's not bar top size. I don't know why they call it that. What is
Yeah,
bar top?
pretty-
That's kind of a
Well, yeah. What does
yeah,
that
that
even
needs to
mean?
be defined, I think. And the ability to expand your game selection with the Evercade cartridge ecosystem. Each Evercade Alpha has 6 built-in games, including titles previously unreleased on bar top arcades. So that's just the 2 options here. The games built in.
If the
first-
emulation is good, then I think that's pretty cool.
For $229, would you still be in at that price point? That's a lot, man.
I'm not, because I don't have Evercade stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you already had some investment in the ecosystem, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But not for me. I would
I
just
think
buy.
I have 4 or 5 games. I don't have many. A lot of
Yeah.
the
See,
games
I
too,
would-
and I'll say another thing, and this I'm not trying to shit on this on Evercade. So if you're watching this and you're an Evercade fan, please don't take it this way. But I feel like a lot of the collections for the games, there's like 5 games in there, and like a couple good ones, like 1 or 2 really worth playing, and the other ones are kind of shovelware. Although I actually would like to get, there's a Sydney Hunter collection. I would actually buy that one. In fact, I might buy that one because those are good games.
See, this is what I'm saying. If you, maybe the emulation's not that great, and that's disappointing, but it is still cool that it's physical. You know, there is still
Yeah.
some cool aspect to it being physical. So I
Let's
understand.
get physical.
I like
Copyright
that it has a
strike.
headphone jack too. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting system. It has
Yeah.
the 2 cartridge slots. It's got USB. It's
When does this
interesting.
thing come out? Let's see.
Good question. Good question.
I'll let you do UK. So let's do USA. This is going to take me to Amazon. Let me do this real quick. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't have it on Amazon. I don't see it.
Oh, wait. What was that? Is that not it? Thought I saw it.
No.
There's some
Did
kind
you
of
see
little
it?
arcade. Something. Go down. Keep going. It's a little bit further. Right there.
Neo
What is
Geo
that?
Mini.
Oh, okay. That's a Neo Geo Mini.
Yeah.
It's got to be better than a Neo Geo Mini because the quality on the stick was really bad. This actually looked. I mean, at first looking at this, I thought it wasn't a full size stick, but if it is a full size, the stick is full size. The buttons seem full size. I mean, it's not the size that you would want on an actual arcade machine, though, like spread out enough. You know what I mean? But the stick itself looks like it's fine.
Hey man, you know what they say? It's not about the size; it's how you wiggle the analog stick.
As I'm saying this, I'm like, this is not going to be. This is not something I should be saying, but you know.
Yeah, you get an Evercade Alpha bar top, 6 built-in Capcom games, USB-C cable. That's obviously just for the power. 3 swappable marquees, and a quick start.
Is that a backlit mark? Like,
yeah, I believe it is. And then you could swap these out.
well, you know, I mean, it could be a lot worse. I'll say that it could be a lot worse.
I would buy
No,
one
I
of
don't-
these way before I bought probably like an arcade machine. I will probably. I don't think I
Oh,
would
yeah,
buy one of
yeah.
those, but I would buy one of these. It's certainly not the worst thing on the market. But
No, I get why people would want this. I do, because it's a collectible thing that you can use to support your physical library of Evercade cartridges.
I feel like we're talking ourselves into buying one of these.
we started
As
off
the conversation
like-
progresses, we're like, you know what? This isn't a bad idea. Maybe I
we're
want
like, look
this.
at this. We start off like, look at this piece of crap, and by the end, we're like, so how much? When does this come out?
You take Visa or MasterCard?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. That's funny.
So yeah, no, pretty cool concept. Like I said, you know, their Evercade collection has grown a lot since I bought the Versus a few years back. I should go through and see which ones I would really like. Oh, here we go. Light up marquee,
Oh,
USB-C,
yeah.
built-in Wi-Fi for updates and features, stereo speakers,
Oh.
earphone jack, pre-assembled bar top arcade unit, 8-inch high resolution, 4.3 screen, compatible with Evercade and third-party USB controllers, 2 USB controller ports, 6 built-in games, competition-grade arcade controls.
Third-party USB
There's-
controllers. What does that mean?
That means you can use the Evercade controllers because they're USB, or you could use like a cheap $20 USB controller off Amazon. Yeah, you don't have to use their controllers on the Evercade stuff.
I mean, I would like to try one of these to see what the quality is actually like.
yeah,
You know, because if that stick is legit, and because the games are good, the games they're giving you, it just depends on the quality of the emulation. I don't know. It doesn't sound terrible. It does have stereo speakers also, which is pretty cool. And the Wi-Fi is interesting because what does that mean? You know,
that's like for their updates and that. Yeah, because as far as I know, there's no online play with any of their games. I could be wrong,
8-inch
but
screen.
I don't think there
though.
is. That's a small screen, dude.
That's
really
but
small.
That tells you that the whole thing is a lot smaller than what you think
Mhm.
it is. You know.
Yeah,
which-
it can't be much bigger than, I mean, like
Yeah.
maybe twice the size of a laptop, probably, if that. So,
it's going to be pretty small.
yeah, we'll see. I was excited. I follow a couple Evercade channels. I know Bacon Ice Cream Productions. He does a lot of Evercade stuff, so I'm sure he might get one of these. It'll be interesting to see how he likes it.
Oh, I'm
So-
sure Rich will get one of these because he has the newer Evercades. He showed me
Yeah.
those on a stream once, and I was like, "Oh, those are cool looking." The newer Evercade that they had.
No.
I'm not in this ecosystem. That's the thing. So I'm not.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know,
I'm
I
not
have
as
the Versus,
enticed.
and I'm looking at there's 500 plus cartridges now. That's insane,
lot of-
dude. I didn't think
that's
there
a
was that
lot.
many. That's a lot, dude. Maybe I'll go see. Maybe I'll reassess and see if there's anything I might actually want on there. Because, like I said, I will buy those Sydney Hunters. I didn't know there was a Sydney Hunter collection. Those are fun.
Damn
Those
it.
are fun games.
I haven't really felt an interest in this until now, and I'm starting to be like, the physical cartridges kind of has me thinking, you know, and I'm like, shit. Anyway, I don't know. I got to put this out of my head. How dare you, John?
Sorry.
Why do you always
Well,
do this?
Here's what we'll do. We'll move on to the next
how many
topic.
times? No. Hang on. Now we're going to dwell on this for a second.
Okay.
How many
we're gonna go
times?
there.
How many times is it you bring something to me I'm not even interested in, and then we start talking about it, and by the end of it, I'm a pariah on the internet with videos being made about me because I'm obsessed with it. What the hell? How does this keep happening?
Well, after all, it is my fault you own a 3DO, so I will
It is
always
your
take
fault.
credit for that.
But you should, and you deserve it, and thank you, because I love the 3DO. It's fantastic. So there's your that is the exception that proves a rule. Like,
Yeah.
you know, once in a while you get it right.
Hey man,
Thank you.
even a broken clock is right twice a day. So speaking of which,
That's right.
speaking of broken things and reviving things, where do I have it here? Atari acquires the Intellivision
boy.
brand.
Oh,
Our
boy.
final topic for the night, or for the whenever you're watching this, morning, afternoon, midday, lunchtime, at work, in the office. It's our final topic. So I will say this. Actually, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read through this statement. It's not a long statement, but I did not see any of this coming, and I don't think anybody did.
I did
This was
not
surprising
at
to
all.
me. So this was announced about a week ago, I think, at this point, maybe a little, so 5/23, so a little over a week ago. This is from Atari's websites. The purchase of Intellivision trademark and games unites competing brands from the 70s and 80s. Atari, one of the world's most iconic consumer brands and interactive entertainment producers, announced today it has purchased the Intellivision brand and certain games from Intellivision Entertainment LLC. We know who they are. They were the people that were in charge of the Amico. Intellivision Entertainment LLC will rebrand, that is the folks working on that console, and continue its business of developing and distributing the Amico brand game console with a license from Atari to continue to distribute new versions of the Intellivision games on the Amico console. So this is all I'm going to talk really about the Amico here. From what it sounds like and from what Atari is saying, Atari purchased the branding and the Intellivision brand, because that's what Intellivision has been. It's been a brand since, like, whoever was it, Mattel who originally owned it?
Yeah,
It's kind of like how Xbox is a brand. Xbox is owned by Microsoft, but it's a brand. So theoretically, Microsoft can sell Xbox brand to Joe Schmo down the street if he had $30 trillion or whatever the hell it's valued at. So they now own the branding and a handful of games. I think it says later on the article it's 200, but however, they did not purchase the Amico, whatever that is at this point, whether it's a mobile game app or hypothetical console, whatever. Atari didn't want anything to do with that. So the people working on that now have to rebrand. So they can't call themselves Intellivision anymore, but they will license the games to that company, whatever that's going to be called. So then they can use those names on their consoles, Astro Smash or whatever other ones they still own. So Atari will seek to expand digital and physical distribution of legacy Intellivision games, potentially create new games, and explore brand and licensing opportunities as part of a long-term plan to create value from Intellivision products. That's kind of obviously what's going to happen. I think they're going to make new games, these recharge things, and they're probably going to license them out to whoever else wants to use them. I'll just read through the rest of this real quick here, because I'm going to start inserting stuff and I'm going to get off way off track. Uniting Atari and Intellivision after 45 years ends the longest running console war in history, said Micah. Studio had a digital eclipse, and Atari owned Game Studio. The first Intellivision home video game console was released by Mattel Electronics 1979, and the console platform sold an estimated 5 million units through 1990. Atari and Intellivision arguably fought for the first console war of consequence in the late 70s and early 80s. Mattel went as far as enlisting the actor George Plimpton to appear in a series of ads comparing the two systems, as well as an 8-minute video shown at the Gamescom trade show. This was a very rare opportunity to unite the former competitors and bring together fans of Atari and Intellivision in the golden age of gaming, said Wade Rosen, chairman and CEO of Atari. The purchase includes the rights to more than 200 titles from the Intellivision portfolio and the Intellivision trademarks. Atari has been a valuable partner, and we have every confidence they will be a responsible steward of the storied Intellivision brand, said Phil Adams, CEO of Intellivision Entertainment. We look forward to our expanded collaboration and the prospect of bringing a broad array of new titles to the Amico family gaming platform. Sure. To make the occasion new, Intellivision t-shirts are available on Atari.com with more Intellivision apparel collectibles to come. A press kit including the Atari and Intellivision logos and new Intellivision t-shirts can be found here. And then they have a link to their shirts and whatever else.
Can I just say something real fast?
Go ahead, because I need some water after reading all that.
Okay. Yeah. The format of this email is perplexing to me because it's worded as though it's a reporter reporting on what has happened. It's not worded as though like they're saying they're trying to like announce something. It's like there was this thing that happened and here's the report of what happened. Phil Adams said this. When did he say that? To who? When? Where? How? Like, it's just weird. The format, like, because in order to have that quote from Phil Adams in this message, like he said that somewhere, like to them, like they had to have been like, hey, we're going to send out an email. Do you have anything you want to say? And that's what he said. That's what he wanted said, or the text that he wanted included. So
Yeah.
it's just, it just perplexes me because I'm like, why does it happen this way? Like, and there's stuff that's in this message that I don't even understand why it's in there. Like they talk about Plimpton and like, there's like some detail that I'm like, why is this part of your message? What does this have to do with anything? Like the message is, hey, we're Atari and we just bought the Intellivision games, the old Intellivision games, and we bought the name Intellivision. That's your message. The rest of this is like a bunch of, I don't even understand. Like it's like designed to look like a reporter is reporting it, you know, like
Yeah,
I don't
it's on
get
Atari's
it.
website. Usually you'll see pieces like the way that's written, you'll see pieces in like articles from like a game journalism. Our company sends out PR stuff and they'll come to like people in the company and say like, hey, we're going to make this write up. What do you want to say?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what happened. I don't think there's going to be any collaboration between the previous owners of the Intellivision IP and Atari, other than we'll let you license the stuff if you pay us. You know what I mean? I think that's all there's going to be. I don't think there's going to be any partnership.
Well, it's funny you say that because the only thing that anybody at the Amico company has said about any of this is in this message.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't said
it's been
anything.
8 days and they still haven't said anything. There's been no emails. They haven't updated their website. Nothing.
No,
nothing has been said. How does that make
Atari
sense?
says, Atari said this happened. Atari said, and they're going to have to rebrand the Amico thing. Atari provided a quote from Phil Adams. What? Like Intellivision hasn't said or done anything.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's like this didn't even really happen. It's just Atari says it's happened. But it did happen.
Oh, well, it happened. And I think it's good.
But,
and I think it's good that it happened, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. It is. I admit, I'll say this also, just to, you know, when this first got announced, I felt like I got hit by a train. And it was because of all the time and effort and attention that we put into something I wanted to happen very, very much because I'm a huge Intellivision fan. It was the first console we owned and in my family. I love the Intellivision, and I had dreamed for years about this new Intellivision happening. And I talked to my mom about it and my brother, my daughter, you know, it was like this thing. We had gone, I went to your place and got to spend all that time with everybody and with you. And it was a huge emotional investment. And I have had a hard time, you know, I kind of delayed my grief because I just sort of stepped away from it completely. And I wasn't talking about it. I didn't want to talk about it in public. I didn't want to have any conversations. So I kind of delayed that. And when this happened, it was like it all kind of hit me. And I was like, wow, we had no reason to ever get mixed up in this because Atari's going to do what we wanted to have happen in the first place. So what a huge waste of energy and time and effort.
Yeah.
And the crap that we had to put up with for no reason, you know? And then the people at this Amico thing that used to be in television, they won't even take, hey, okay, never mind. I'm gonna start talking about this stuff. It was just a difficult moment. But my point being, once I got over that and I pulled up my britches, you know, put my big boy pants back on, I was like, yeah, this is fantastic because this is what I wanted to have happen. I wanted these, you know, the original classic games to get some recognition and a re-release of some kind, maybe like a collection on a modern system where people would even know they're real games. And I wanted to get reimagined versions, which I think will happen too. And this is what I wanted. Yeah. So I'm ecstatic about the future of what's going to happen with my old Intellivision stuff and with actual new Intellivision stuff that's not just a bunch of BS. Like this sounds great.
Well,
I'm very
you know,
happy about it.
Atari's done some really good stuff over the last couple of years with the recharge stuff that they've done. And from what I've seen, I became a gamer at the NES. So I never had any nostalgia for Intellivision or Atari. I played a few of those games. You know, I remember a neighbor of mine had an Atari when I was younger, when I first got my Nintendo, and we'd go over there, play some games here and there because they didn't have a Nintendo yet. And, I never really cared to go back and play that recharge stuff, but from what I saw, I mean, Atari's done a really good job with those. Yar's Revenge is actually my favorite Atari game. That game's fun. And
It's pretty good, yeah.
I was going to get that one recharge with that, and maybe I'll eventually get around to doing it. But I think this is a good opportunity for a lot of these Intellivision games that you guys grew up with and you were a fan of to kind of get these reimagined games because they weren't going anywhere with the previous. I mean,
Yeah.
they once that console died, these games were not going to ever see the light of day in any type of form. I think it's good that they sold it. And whatever happens with that console moving forward, honestly, it doesn't matter. There's the whole thing behind it was that it had the Intellivision name. I mean, that's why a lot of people, you know, in that age range who grew up with the Intellivision, that's why they kind of migrated to the whole Amico, is because of that name. And now that's not attached to it, so you can't have a console. I mean, the whole thing, I mean, the box, everything, I mean, it wasn't going to happen to begin with at this point. Now it's really not going to happen because you don't have what was going to sell it to begin with. So I think this is good for the Intellivision gamers. I know it sucks. I mean, because I can't imagine if Nintendo bought Sega, that would fucking break my heart, you know. So I get that aspect of it too. But at the same time, if I wasn't getting any new Sonic games for 30 years or however long it's been, I might then be like, you know what? Okay, Nintendo's going to give us Sonic games, and that's kind of the thing here is Atari's going to. I think Atari's going to. The smartest thing Phil said ever in the last 2 years was he thinks Atari's going to be a good steward of the IPs here, and I think that is true. I think that's going to happen with these. So I think for the Intellivision gamer, it's certainly a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else.
Yeah.
I think I've said enough.
And I really just wanted to talk about this from the point of, you know, the actual Intellivision side of it and the Atari side, and not get into the other stuff because that's been.
I didn't mean to
talked
do
about.
that.
No, and it's fine because you and I have a lot of history there, and you know, it's crazy.
We got into this together. We really totally got into this together, this whole situation, and so yeah, there's a lot of thinking and feeling to process there. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward. I mean, I know Astro Smash and Sharkstark are still owned by BBG Entertainment. I still haven't. You've played the Astro Smash on did you get it on Steam?
I have it
Or
on
did you get it on
Switch.
Switch? Yeah, it's game on
Yeah.
Switch. $15 is too much for me on those. I'm gonna wait on a sale. I'll probably get them for like $7.
I
But
mean,
there's
it's
a lot of
fun.
older good
It's
titles.
yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future with Intellivision. I'm just glad that it's in the hands of a company that's actually a real company that's releasing things, and there's some hope for the future there. So that's good. That's very good. My feelings about everything else is really not important.
I had
So,
said in a video that I talked about, it's unlisted now because I'm just leaving my documentary stuff up going forward on my channel. But I had said that I feel like Atari's really trying to capture that pre-NES era of gaming and really kind of be the authority. And I think they have done a good job with that. Because
Yeah.
when you think about like 1970s gaming, I mean, there was a lot of stuff out there, but you think of Atari and they've done well. I know the VCS really didn't quite work out as well as they wanted it to. Hardware's is tough, man. I mean,
I'll tell you this.
manufacturing costs and that.
If nothing else, you got to give them credit for bankrolling the proper emulation of the Atari Jaguar, because if it wasn't for that Atari 50 collection, we wouldn't have the Big P EMU and the better than perfect emulation of the Jaguar. At give Atari credit for making that happen, and the 50 collection is great. The reimagined games are great. I feel good about, whatever's going to happen. I feel good about it. So, and that's a feeling I haven't had in a while for
That's
Intellivision.
good. I'm happy for the old school Intellivision gamers out there. 'Cause there's a lot of you guys I follow. I know I watch you, obviously. I watch a little bit of Papa Pete. I think Bacon Ice Cream Productions. I think he's an OG Intellivision fan. He might be a couple of years older than me. I'm not sure. But the guys at Go Game Go, I really like. I really like watching their stuff because it's like listening to my older brother, because I have a brother who's like their age. So it's like it's fun. I'm a little bit younger than them, but still like knowledgeable enough. Like they were talking about movies the one night. They were talking about Popeye. We were talking about the Popeye movie, the one that came out in 1980. I actually didn't realize that movie came out in 1980. I thought it came out later, but I remember watching that movie as a kid, because Popeye cartoon you could still watch on TV on like Cartoon Network or whatever it was back then. So I watched a lot of Popeye. So I like watching them. I know they're big Intellivision and Atari fans, so I'm sure they're happy about all that. So I think this is great. I think for you guys, it's good that it's in the hands of somebody who's going to do something with these games, because there's about 200 games, I think they said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting number. There's been some discussion about that number. Like, it's not real clear what exactly they mean by 200. But who knows right now? I mean, I don't know. I thought about this is what I thought.
Yeah.
I was going to say about that 200 number. You know how like when the Polymega was coming out, they were counting, like when they counted games, they were counting the Japanese versions of the same games as separate. I was like, maybe it was something like that. I don't know.
It'll be interesting. The Night Stalker, maybe that'll get finished, because I know that was in development. That game looked cool.
It did look badass. It looked pretty damn good.
So, I mean, that's an Intellivision brand, right? Is Night Stalker?
Yeah.
So they
own Atari's got that now. Yeah.
I bet you that game gets finished. Who owned the Bomb Squad? Was that Intellivision as well?
Well, see, the problem is that these were being created by independent developers who were being basically paid by Intellivision, who owned the licenses. So there's a problem there, like the guy who was working on Bomb Squad he was like a contractor for Intellivision. Like he didn't, like his game is owned like by him, but the name and the license is owned by Intellivision. So if Atari wants to put out that game, they have to work out a deal with him. Because I'm
sure that could happen, because I think I don't know what all went down there, but I think there was an issue with the previous owners of the Intellivision brand and the developer, and that's one of the reasons why it didn't get finished. I think if Atari goes back to some of these developers, I mean, they have a lot more pull at this point than the previous owner did. And
All
I
I'm
think
saying, dude,
I think they can get done. I think we're going to see
Yeah.
like a Nights. I think we're going to see that Night Stalker game come out. I really think we'll
Well,
see that one.
if you think about it, if say you've done like 2 years of work on a game and it's almost done, what are you going to do with it? You can't release it unless
'cause you don't
it's
own it.
through them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, you're incentivized to do a deal with Atari. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully those things happen.
So I'm excited for it, and sounds like you are too. So it's another
Yeah.
thing we're gonna watch and move on. So yeah, all right. Well, I think that's all for our topics for the night. I will be interested to see your Rumble streams, Cyrus,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
then
sir.
I will continue to do what I do, randomly stream, and sometimes maybe upload and work on a video.
Maybe work on a sequel to your awesome NES game that you have created. Maybe.
Oh yeah, the game. Yeah, we could. Yeah, as I go. So as we talk about like what's in the works. So I think for most people that are watching this know that I created a NES game that is on Steam Itch. Yeah, Steam and Itch right now, and then I'm working on doing a physicals. My goal initially was to get the physicals out this summer. It's still only the beginning of June, so it's still a possibility, but it's probably going to be more towards the end of the year because I needed to get so the guy doing the boards, the PCBs, he says he can get them, but I would like to have a couple first because I need to send out prototypes, and Kickstarter also requires, I mean, I probably don't need a physical for the Kickstarter, but I would like to have one because if I go to Kickstarter and ask people for money, I want to show them what they're getting. Like I just don't want to show a 3D mock-up of what they're getting. I want to actually show the box, which I have, show the cartridge, and show the board in there, show it playing in a Nintendo. So I want to have that on the Kickstarter. So I would like a couple boards. I also want to send some out to a couple of YouTubers, and I want to get those out there. So I'm waiting on those boards. I actually found a manufacturer in Europe who can do the boards, and he just emailed me back on, I believe it was Friday. So, but shooting towards the end of the year, I'm really in no rush because I just want to do it right. I don't want to rush anything. The game's on Steam, the game's on it, so if people really just want to play it, they can. So, yeah.
Well, don't overpromise. Just do what you're doing, and we've learned from observing other things that if it takes longer, as long as you tell people what's going on, people are usually pretty cool about it. They just need to understand what's happening. If they have money on it, if they don't, then whatever. You do it whenever you do it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it because I played your game quite a bit, and I look forward to seeing that thing out there as a physical cartridge. That's amazing. But it'll happen. Just takes time.
Have you beaten it yet?
Did I think I almost did? I think I was right at the end, and I don't think I did beat it. I almost beat it.
Yeah, you got close, man.
Yeah.
You got pretty
I think
close.
I was close. I wanna beat it on my NES with an actual cartridge. That's what I want to do. And
There's as far as I know, there's one person who beat it without using save states, and that was Down Phoenix. I mean, people could have beaten it on Steam. I don't know. I just out of the people we know.
well, that's
he's
a
the only
hard
one I know.
game, so that's impressive for him to do that. So too bad he didn't do it on a video or stream. Or
Can I ask you?
anything.
Can I
That
ask you a
would've
question?
Yeah.
What makes it hard? Because I feel like it's not hard, but I developed it, so I have complete like blindness. There's a term for it. I forget what it's called, but I have blindness to why I would even
Yeah.
think anybody thinks it's hard. So what do you think makes it
Well,
hard?
It's hard because there's certain inconsistency. There's certain inconsistency in some of the movement, like sometimes things will surprise you, and you'll die, and you won't. And so, like whether it's an enemy just appearing out of nowhere, or something you think you can land on that you can't, or something killing you. It's just like surprising stuff. That's what makes it hard, is the stuff that you don't see coming. And that's something that you're not going to, like you said, experience because you know what's coming. That's what makes it hard for me, is just the, oh shit, something killed me, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well,
And
so
also,
yeah, go ahead.
and also climbing. I cannot climb the damn ropes to save my life because I, for some reason, can't do that. I don't know.
I'll show you a trick to that next time I stream it.
Okay,
So you'll like this though. I have started programming the second one, the sequel, and you will have hit points, so you can take damage. So it's not a one-hit death anymore. So you'll
I can't wait
appreciate
to see that.
Yeah, you'll appreciate that.
I'm glad you're doing another one because I like the first one a lot.
Yeah, it might come out next
Looking
year.
forward
Maybe
to it.
we'll see. Honestly, the programming's done on it. The hardest part is the animation. Like trying to think of levels and character design and enemy types. That's hard to do, man. Like
Yes,
that's the hard.
It's
Like
incredibly
level
hard to
design.
do.
I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do. Like, you know, because this one's going to take place like it's going to be more of like a campy type feel to it. So it's going to be like outside. You're going to start off. You're going to be like in the forest. Okay, so you have to design that. But I also like want to add an element to where, like, you know, in the city level where you could like go into like houses and that. I want to add to like you can go into like different like abandoned homes in there, like go through them, then come out the other side. So it's not just all foresty.
Oh,
But,
that's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
The scrolling's going to be a little bit different. You'll be able to go up and down scroll, not so much scroll, but the first one's right to left. This one will be more of a Metroidvania type, to where you go up, down, left, right, to screens and whatnot. So there's a lot involved with that. It'll be fun. It's time consuming. I spent so much time on the first one. It was literally my life for 10 weeks. This is all I did. I worked and I worked on my game. I didn't play any video games for like 10 weeks. I just worked on the game. But
I remember when you were knee deep in it, and yeah, that's all you did. Absolutely. That was an interesting time.
so, all right, man. I think it was a good first show. If you're not subscribed, I'll leave a link to Cyrus's YouTube channel below, as well as his Rumble, so you don't miss his live streams. Rumble, like I said, I'll be curious to see how that goes for you, man. I'm excited for you.
It's gonna be different, but I'm cool with it. I think it's gonna be fun.
All right, well, that'll wrap up the first episode of Cyrus and Bro Buddy Cop Show. Guess we'll see you guys next month.
Later.
Take care.
Lion Bro, metal saints, gaming news without restraints, retro games, new tech search on this pop legends merge. Old school tales, arcades pride, console wars, keep it live. Joystick buttons, old school raid, next gen glory every day. Retro quest, fury bright, speed runs battles every night. Cyrus Moves stands tall, gaming legends they call. CRT screens and LED, flicker, flash, reverie, microphone to shield their sword, podcast singers, gaming lords. Virtual screens and LED, flicker, flash, reverie, microphone to shield their sword,